Hey, this is Stacia, and I'm going to share another USCF rated tournament game. This is OTB chess that I played at the Parma Chess Club. This particular game was played on June 22nd, and it was a rapid time control G30, D5. I played Samir Hassan. I played him one other time, and I remember being like really tired when I played him. And then like I just blundered in the opening and lost. It was horrible. So his opinion of me is probably pretty low, but it's been quite some time and it's time to play some chess. So let's have a look. Okay, so he opened with E4. I went E5. He went knight F3. I went knight C6. This is pretty normal. He went bishop to B5, the Spanish opening. And I like to play A6 here. So he moved the bishop back, and now knight to F6. He castled, and now I like to go for the Marshall attack. So the way you do that is you do not commit your D pawn, because what we want to do is play D5 at the right moment. So bishop E7 instead. He played rook to E1. Okay, and the general rule in these types of positions is that once white defends their pawn, we need to defend our pawn. And if you're like, Stacia, what are you talking about? Your knight's defending it. Yeah, well, my knight's attacked. So he could take, and then take my pawn. So we shouldn't allow that, so B5. Okay, so he moved the bishop. I castled. And now C3, the move I was hoping for, because after C3, we can go into the Marshall attack with this move, D5. Now, this is a pawn sacrifice. I mean, the thing is, white has, two guys on E5. And you're like, well, there's a pawn in the way. Well, yeah, but he's about to take. So once he takes, this pawn really is under attack. So that's what happens. Takes, 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 takes. Okay, but like when you grab this pawn, the rook is kind of like misplaced now. The only sad thing about the Marshall attack is that now the knight really is under attack. So we have to play this move, C6. That just defends the knight. It would be much better if we didn't have to play that move. But nonetheless, it's one of the most well-respected gambits in all of chess. So okay, D3. Yeah, I was surprised to see this move. These kids that are rated like 1500 never ever think that that's their actual rating. I mean, just by the way he played this game, I would expect that his rating was more like, if I didn't know his rating, I would have thought he was like a 1700, like 1800 player. Just by his confidence and the way he played everything, the opening, the middle game, everything. Well, I guess you'll see for yourself. So D3 is actually what the Super GMs play against the Marshall attack. And the idea is that after D4, I've actually had this in a game before where I go here, rook E1. Let's see if I remember this. Okay, now we're threatening mate. So I go here, we go here. And now white has a really interesting move. They can go like this, rook to E4. But the problem is with the pawn on D4, this actually doesn't work. Because what happens is, okay, they're going to get that. What do I do here? I think what I do is, wow, I forget this line actually. Trying to remember. Oh, I know what I do. I play G5. Glad I remembered this. This is why it's good to review things that you think you know. Now this looks like a pawn sacrifice. It looks pretty silly. But the idea is that I'm going to stop the rook from coming to H4. So, if white accepts this pawn, I actually play this move. queen to f5, and that is a fork. So white is going to lose material here. It's actually kind of hard to play even after you win the material. I'll just tell you that. But now the idea is that if you didn't know this, this will be useful to know. After d3, if we go into that same exact line, it's actually g4 doesn't work anymore. So let's say I go, you know, bishop d6, rook e1, let's threaten mate, g3 here, and rook e4. Okay, so I'm going to play my trick, right? g4. This time it's different. Bishop takes, and after queen f5, this time the rook is defended. This time the rook's defended. So white's just winning here in reality. So we can't play that way. So I don't know if Samir knew this when he played d3. I expect that he did know this. But he played d3. So if I recall, in the Chessable course that I own by Grandmaster Jan Gustafsson, he says against d3, we're just going to switch up our whole approach, because after all, there must be some downside to not putting the pawn on the most natural square defending the rook, right? And taking the center, for that matter. So we're going to play, we do play this move. That's just a tempo. But after rook to e1, I played the move bishop f5, and I'm happy to say that this is the correct move. I can tell because it's the top move in the opening book. Although it's overwhelmingly drawish in the 379 games that are here. Okay, but that just means it's anybody's game really still. All right, so I'm putting pressure on this pawn. And if he moves his queen, maybe I'll take it, you know? So that's kind of the idea. Okay, so he played queen to f3. That does attack my bishop. It also applies pressure on the knight. Usually I invite this trade of, you know, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, because when my bishop is still on c8, I have this really nice move. Which I don't have it right now, do I? Oh, I know why. Because usually I play rook a7, bishop b7. And that can be really annoying. But I think queen f3 is a good move. Okay, so what should I do? Well, I was out of book at this point. I have no idea what to do. So I played queen to d7. And I just felt like, how could this move be bad? You know, my rooks are connected. I can swing them over and attack. I'm defending the bishop. And, well, I'm kind of threatening this now, too. So I thought this must be good. So let's learn something, right? What's the actual move? The actual move is queen to h4 still. Wow. That's the top opening move in the book. Queen to h4, that still threatens mate. And then g3. And we go queen h3. Huh. So, okay. And then they go knight to d2. Notice the queen is defending the pawn, so we cannot take it. And, you know, white's main goal, I think, in this position is just to finish development. If they can, you know, maybe place the knight here or even on f1 and get their bishop on e3 and maybe get their rook over in the game somehow, then white is up a pawn. So it's up to black to keep the initiative and play with some force. Okay, so yeah, this is interesting. It says rook a to e8 now. Threatening. Checkmate. Actually, it's not checkmate because there is there, but I would take the rook. So, In this position, it says knight to e4, just blocking the e file off. And only now I go bishop g4 and queen g2. And it wants to trade queens here. At least the engine does. And it says this is a draw. It says f5. Like, what? Oh, because the knight is pinned. So we can play f5 and invite white to take the bishop. Pretty interesting. So f5, and they actually go h3 here, counterattack. And now bishop to f4. Interesting. Okay, I've never seen these lines before, so that's pretty interesting. But I went way too deep into that. Okay, so after queen f3, I guess the right way to play is queen to h4. But I played queen to d7. Yeah, because I'm on my own. I'm making this up now. All right, g3 was played, and he must be on his own too, because queen d7 is not a normal move. So he played g3, which is actually incorrect. Computer actually wants to take the knight. So let's think about this for a second. If he takes the knight, and I take, and he takes here, that would be a blunder because of bishop takes h2 check. So that's not the idea then. The idea is to simply take the knight. So that means, what is the knight guarding? Well, it's guarding this, this, this. So probably the idea is bishop to e3 is my guess. So I'm going to look at it now. No, it's actually bishop to f4. So computer wants to do this. Take, bishop f4. Offering to trade pieces. And if I take, queen takes, I'm sure. And now I could get my pawn back. You know, I can take the pawn. It's probably what I would do in this position. And, well, you know, this is kind of drawish all of a sudden, but it says white has an edge here. Probably because you know, when I go pawn hunting, that gives white time to develop their knight. And so it's equal pawns, equal material. So, okay. So it's a game from here. Instead, he went g3. I'm curious about that. Why did he go g3? I do recall that I thought this was a very interesting threat, because where does the queen go, right? Queen does not have a lot of fun squares at all. Yeah, I don't really see any good ones. So that must be why, yeah, that's why the computer wants to take. But he had a different idea. He is like, okay, my queen has nowhere to go, so I'm going to play g3 and hide my queen here. I think that's what his idea was. Now, I played bishop g4 here, and the computer actually doesn't like that move. So in the game, bishop g4, he retreated, and I brought a rook over. And here, yeah, I have to admit, he can play bishop e3 now. And that move blocks me from taking the rook. That's what I wanted to do. And it does feel like black has lost some initiative here, to be honest with you. So instead of that, we should go rook a to e8 right away. So that's a forcing move because we're threatening to take the rook. So with check. So he would have to go bishop e3 now. But if he does it right now, what happens? Let's have a look. If he does that right now, let's say we take that. Well, if rook takes, I think Then we go here. That looks pretty annoying, right? Or do I just take it? So knight takes, rook takes, rook takes. Then he could take with a queen or a pawn. I think he should take with a pawn, honestly. But there is a chance that, you know, if he weakens g3, there's always a chance that I could sacrifice there. And after takes, do I have some sort of attack? I don't know. So let's check with the engine because I have no idea. Okay, engine says knight takes bishop, rook takes. Now, do we take that? Okay, we do take it. Now, I thought f takes. Yeah, queen takes is actually a big mistake because now we get this rook to the file with tempo. And not only that, we're threatening check. See, like, you have to take advantage of white not having their pieces developed yet. So that's what the computer found here, which I really like. I mean, here, what do you do? Queen d2, I guess? Now, that's an unfortunate move because that's where the knight wants to go. And not only that, wow. You're not going to believe the move it says now. Bishop to f4. What a cool move. Just offering the bishop. If they take with the queen, we play rook e1 check. They go here. And this is looking really bad all of a sudden. Bishop h3 check. Everything's covered, right? So the king has to come out. And if the king's coming out, it does feel like this is got to be over somehow. Oh, we can take a pawn with check. That seems good. Yeah, this is mate in 4. Wow. So bishop f4. And if they take with a pawn, what do we do? If they take with a pawn, wow. I don't think I would ever find this move. Bishop takes d3 is apparently just absolutely winning. And it must be that we just opened up this check. And the bishop is guarding here. And, I mean, there's ideas of bishop here followed by mate. There's ideas of rook e1. Wow. I'm learning a lot from this analysis. I would have never spotted that move in a million years. Got to make a flashcard of that one, right? Okay, I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm going to save that. Hang on a second. I'm going to save this for a second because I want to make a flashcard of that. That is an idea I want to remember. So, FEN, where is it? At the bottom. Okay, copy. Okay. Wow, how cool would that move be to play in a real game? Okay, but anyway, where were we? Let's go back. Okay, so I went here, attacking the queen. The queen went here. I went here, and bishop e3. Yeah, so I think the way I played, you know, now I thought maybe I was playing best and it's just equal. You know, during a game you don't know. But apparently I should have played rook a to e8 earlier, and it makes a big difference. Okay, queen to f5. So I'm like, well, I don't know if my attack is going to amount to much here, so I was planning on grabbing the pawn. I mean, the downside of playing d3 is that the pawn can be weak here. So, and if he has to spend a tempo to play d4, that could also be good for black because these lines are too sharp to like really waste time. But he didn't waste time. He developed his knight. And now what to do? Well, I went pawn hunting. Computer actually likes another move better. So let's see if we can understand why. Computer wants to first take the bishop with the knight. I think part of the reason is that my queen, part of the reason I put my queen on f5 is because he was threatening to take, and take with the queen and win a pawn. And I thought, you know, if he does that, these pawns are kind of scary in the center. So I didn't really want that to happen. So queen f5 defends and attacks this. So I thought that must be the best move, and it was. But if we take here, okay, now there is no bishop takes, but there's still queen takes pawn. So obviously white has to recapture. I would think they should recapture with the rook. And I would almost certainly take that. So let's look at that. If we take, they take back. Okay. So here, well, you know what? Now it's even better to take on d3. So I think we just explained why the engine likes this. I mean, now we're on this, we're on this. This is coming. This looks nice. Yeah, and it says the knight should come to f1 to guard the pawn. Okay, then. And then we go bishop to c5. We attack it again. Interesting. Okay. And then h3, counterattack. And then we go bishop h5, and they go bishop to c2. And queen d7. And this is apparently better for black. But it does look better for black. Black has two bishops. We want our pawn back. White's has an isolated pawn and we don't. And our pieces are just more active. I mean, this rook's on the starting square. This knight is on f1. So I actually do like black here. Okay, so I think we learned something there. Now in the game, knight to d2 was played. I took the pawn first, so I should have traded first and then took. Hard to see, I think. So knight f1. Yeah, and you know, here's the difference. Now if I take the bishop, he takes with the knight, you know, and I think this is quite nice for white all of a sudden. He's way more coordinated and he has a tempo on the bishop. So I didn't think I should take there and instead retreated. So it was a hit and run, you know. I'm going to take the pawn and I'm going to come back to f5. This actually was the best move. I'm happy to see that. And then he played bishop to d1. Yeah, I was kind of like, in the game, I was kind of like, yeah, I think he should play bishop to d1, but like, how good could that really be? Well, it is the best move. And it does say that black is slightly better in this position. I mean, it's disconnecting the rooks. But on the other hand, this move is really annoying because he's countering the light square diagonal, which I'm trying to use. So what to do here? I decided to just move my bishop, counterattack. And I actually thought he would go here because look, the bishop's supporting this move. And if I take, then he's in business, you know. The bishop will come there and he's a pawn. Well, I guess it's equal pawns. That's the good news. I did win my pawn back. So I was kind of ready for that. But instead he did this move, which I didn't even see. So that's scary when you don't see a move and it's something forcing, like a move that attacks your queen. But okay, what to do here? So clearly if I try to take the pawn, either way I lose material. It's actually guarded twice. So I can't do that. If I take the queen, he will take my queen. Now, the nice thing about that is it will separate, it will kind of wreck white's pawn structure. Now, is that super meaningful? I'm not sure, but that was definitely an option. The other thing I could do is, well, what else can I do? I can't defend the bishop. That's impossible. Yeah, the computer gives knight to f4 as the strongest move, which I wouldn't even consider that move. I would consider this move because it attacks the queen. So now if they take my bishop, well, actually, what do I do now? Yeah, actually, maybe that doesn't work, does it? Computer says knight takes d1, and we can allow this somehow. No, I don't want to do that. We do win the rook, though. But then, like, I mean, they could even do this, like sack the queen back. I guess this is equal still. So that is an interesting move. But knight to f4, what? So knight to f4. I would never see that move, so I better understand it. It defends the bishop. That's one thing it does. It counterattacks the queen. So if they simply take the knight, the bishop is pinned. So I could take here, and when they take the bishop, if they take the bishop, I would take here. That I understand. But if we go here and they take the rook first, what's happening there? Probably we can still take this. That's what I'm thinking. And if they just trade, I can probably just play like that, and then they take the bishop. Now I have a queen and white does not. Yeah, we're up material. Right, so 6 plus 5 is 11. Queen is 9 plus 3, that's 12. So I'm up a little bit of material, but mostly I'd be happy about the king being unsafe, and when you have a queen, that's kind of good. Plus, look at the pressure. So the knight kind of has to stay there. Okay, so that must be winning for black. Wow, so knight to f4. So once again, I would never find that move. So I'm going to make a flashcard of that as well. So give me 1 second. I'm going to look up the FEM. And that's basically what I do. Anytime there's like some new idea, like especially if I didn't even consider it, like didn't see it whatsoever, then that is a great time to make a flashcard of that, because you're going to learn something and you're going to burn that pattern or that idea into your brain, and it will be useful in future games. Okay, so instead I actually did take this in the game, and this is fine. It's just not nearly as good as knight to f4. All right, so let's see what he did. He played here, and I simply retreated the bishop. Now, again, knight to f4 is a move. Wow. Wow, I just can't imagine playing that. But it, okay, the computer was thinking, and it likes bishop to h3 better now. Okay, so I'm glad to see that. Okay, so I went into this because I was like, well, you know, it's even material, it's even everything. Queens are off the board, but in this ending, white's pawns are separated, and my bishop's annoying. You know, it's stopping the king from getting in the game easily. And I just kind of thought, like, you know, I must have an edge here, and that is true. So I'm happy to see that the computer says minus 0.5 for black. Okay, so he's going to develop, and I took here. Yeah, at this point in the game, I really didn't know what to do, and my clock was ticking. So, let's have a look. What options does black have? I think this bishop is well placed. I do think that my f8 rook needs to get in the action. That is mostly what I think. So I think I could consider this move maybe, but I'm not sure about that. Yeah, if I play a slow move like that, I feel like the knight will come into the action very quickly. You know, either to g3 or to maybe to d2 and maybe jump in here. I don't know, but it just seems like might be a way to play though. The other thing that could happen, no, okay. Okay, so let's just take a look quickly at what the computer wants. It wants to move b4 for black, really. b4. I actually considered this move. So if they take, I mean, this is a pawn break. You know, I have it supported. So, wow, so maybe the idea is that we're better developed. So black should pawn break. And if they take it, we play knight takes b4, we're on the bishop. Maybe this will happen next, attacking the rook. So apparently this is slightly better for black. But I actually saw that move and I was like, well, why am I going to have weak pawns and let him have, you know, better pawn structure? So I didn't play that. Instead, I played this move. And this is fine according to the engine, it's just not best. Rook takes was played. And now I considered taking the knight. I really did. And it turns out that's the top engine move. Yeah, and the reason is this knight just looks like it gets really pesky. Like the knight is going to jump into my position one way or another. I don't know what it will do, but yeah, this is probably a mistake because he can fix his pawns. And I probably should leave the tension here. I was afraid of him doubling, but maybe I should let him waste a tempo first on doubling and then do this, you know? Well, I don't know though. No, computer likes it. It just wants to do this first. It wants to do that. And then it wants to do this. And then it says, I go, oh, I can grab a pawn. But it still says this position's equal though. Okay, but in the game, I actually did take, and take. Now, it actually says white should take with the knight. I'm not exactly sure why. If I was white, I would take with a pawn as well. I mean, now the pawns aren't doubled. Okay, rook here, and the pawn came up. So I checked the king. Yeah, and I did that because I saw that the only move was to move into the corner. That's not what you want to do in the endgame, so I figured that must be a good move. Yeah, and here I played f6, breaking my own rule, which I got from Grandmaster Ben Feingold. Never play f6. But I was trying to fix this pawn. I just wanted this pawn to stay on e4. And I thought that might tie down the bishop a bit. Apparently this is the wrong move. I need to activate my rook with rook to d8. Pretty interesting. Yeah, and I guess the idea is I will take the knight and then sink my rook in. That looks pretty nice. That looks nice and active. Hmm. Black's winning this position, according to the computer. Yeah, I did not know that at all. I guess I have to do more study on this kind of thing. So after this, he could play b4, which I think he did play. But I have to tell you guys that, you know, unfortunately, when we study over the board chess, especially rapid games, I tend to get in time pressure, and here I had 1 minute left, so I stopped annotating the game. My opponent had 4 minutes left, and I will kind of share what happened. Basically, what happened is he was up a pawn in the very end, but I had the bishop pair, and I was able to, despite being low on time, I was able to win the pawn back. And after that, it just ended up being a draw. So in the very end, it ended up being a draw by insufficient material because I grabbed his last pass pawn. Actually, he grabbed my last pass pawn with a piece, but I only had like a bishop, so it was draw by insufficient material. So gotta hand it to my opponent. I feel like he played very well. I think he's stronger than 1500. I definitely think that. I've kind of have more of a feel for how strong people are these days, and yeah, he played well. So we'll be looking for his rating to go up, and hopefully mine too. I hope so. So I was 1698 for this. This one at Parma, I ended up going 1.5 out of 3, but unfortunately, when I checked the ratings of my opponents, they were all a bit lower, so I'm probably going to lose 5 to 10 rating points from this particular tournament, I guess you would call it. It's 3 games, round robin. But that's okay, because I feel like my chess is different than before the pandemic. I really do feel like I see and am able to play a lot better than I used to. So we'll see if that's true, though, in the coming weeks. There's lots more chess to play. So I hope you guys enjoyed the game, and I'll be back with more chess. Okay, bye.